have a couple of guests with me today. Friend of the show, Kevin Kerby, and the original guest, Sonny Cay. So,
How
how
you
are you
doing,
guys doing
everybody?
today?
Good.
Good, Andrew. Thank you for having me again.
So,
Doing
I'd
good.
say let's just start off. We'll go through some of these first round series and try to provide some review. There's a
Sure.
couple that we can skip without saying
Should
a
we
lot
just
about them.
start East or West Coast?
Uh, we could skip through the East a bit easier.
Okay.
So, I know that we could pretty much wipe out much of saying much about the Wizards and Sixers series.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah,
with the Celtics and Nets series,
yeah,
I feel like what happened outside of the actual games was more notable than what
right.
happened during that 5 game series.
You think
Yeah,
they try to offload Kemba and try to rebuild something else around Jason Tatum?
yeah. It's gotta be a question. Like, I think they're reviewing everything. But I will say about the
Obviously,
Celtics.
I
Sorry,
think
go
they
ahead.
keep Jalen Brown if they can. I
Yeah.
don't think that changes. Sorry, you
Yeah.
were saying.
No, I was saying it's so unfortunate they didn't have him. Like, I
Yeah.
actually think that could have been an interesting series. I'm not saying they could have won, but
No. I
but
mean,
it. Yeah,
they might have not been in the play-in if they have some more Jalen Brown.
yeah. A good, very good point. Exactly.
Maybe they're
So how do
playing
you
the
think?
Hawks or something.
Yeah.
So how do you
Sorry.
guys think that the? What do you guys think the Celtics will do
I mean, I don't know if that
following that
contract
loss?
is tradable, but I think that's a possibility. I mean, Ainge is gone, so there's change up happening.
Yeah, I think you're exploring like everything at this point, and I will
Yeah,
say that with the Danny Ainge resigning and now Brad Stevens taking over as their president of operations, I didn't see that coming. First of all, but second of all, it screams it kind of screams desperate to me, and I feel like they're gonna be
yeah.
doing anything to get some sort of change going over
I
there.
mean, maybe if they could offload Kemba, maybe they go after Kyle Lowry.
No.
I don't know. That's just something. I guess that's like the one free agent I can think of right now.
I don't know. There's too many players that don't want to play with a guy like Jason Tatum, so or Jalen Brown. So
Yeah.
I think they'll be okay. But I think this year was really weird for them, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't think they're gonna take it lightly at all.
So I think
Sure.
that the Celtics still need a legitimate center, and I think that's going to clean up a lot of the flaws that their roster has. And we know that they're going to be linked to Miles Turner for one. But is there
Mm-hmm.
any other centers you think they could go after?
I'm trying to think of this free agent market. I mean, I guess I said Kyle Lowry. I know that's not a center, this point guard, but I almost need to look it up. Who's
I
available?
will say I think looking back that they would have definitely looked to restructure Al Horford's contract if they could have, and he still is providing like and you look at the style that the Celtics play, they're not necessarily like this run and gun team. Like they can slow it
Yeah.
down still with him, and I think that they might look to reunite there. Actually,
Is he a free agent right now?
I mean, I just figured that since they had shut him down with what 25 games left in the season or around there, that
Mm.
they're gonna be looking to do something with him, either buy him out or try to look one more time, see what they can get on the market for him.
Yeah,
I
he still
think
got
that's
has 2 years left on his contract.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I just feel like when they shut him down, there's no chance that he goes back next year, right?
hmm
I don't see that.
Yeah, I think that sums up the Celtics good enough for now.
Yeah.
yeah.
But let's talk about what you thought with the Bucks and Heat series.
I mean, I picked the Bucks. I thought they'd win in six, and the Heat just they came out real flat, and then the Bucks also performed very well. I mean, also, I think Drew Holiday has been really good for them. This Nets series is going to be interesting with them.
Yeah. And game one didn't really disappoint, in my opinion. Like, it wasn't the closest game. But
it's going to be close games every time, I feel.
Yeah. I will say, so I did actually have the Bucks winning in 7, but I'm shocked. Bruh, they rolled over the Heat. You could argue they gave up in multiple games in that series, and
Jimmy Butler did not have it at all.
It's crazy. It's like I thought he was pacing himself all season so that he was gonna score, him and LeBron, to be honest. But LeBron's obviously hurt. I wonder maybe if Jimmy was hurt, maybe. And you know what? He was in the finals the year before, so obviously he'll be exhausted. But it's just, that's not Jimmy. He's a dog, and you just expected so much more from him. And I think he averaged like less than 20 points a game in the series. That's just.
This just made me think of that. It's like the Nuggets are the only team out of the Final Four last year that made it to the second round.
Yeah. And then so the Lakers losing 6, Celtics losing 5, and the Heat get swept. And the Nuggets win in 6. I just think that.
And they had the league MVP, so I think that's part of the
league
reason.
MVP, but we're also missing our second best player. But I'll let you go. Yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
I think the thing that was interesting about this series with the Heat is it really exposed how pretty much all the moves the Miami Heat made, it really downgraded their shooting based on the guys that they didn't keep from last year's roster, such as Jay Crowder, Kelly Olynyk, for example, and they brought in guys who just didn't they weren't as good as shooters, and they couldn't play the same way they did against Giannis last year.
And they were old.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I never understood them putting so much into Trevor Ariza, Andre Iguodala. I mean, look, I did think that Tyler Hero. I mean, Duncan Robinson actually played okay. Like, he actually might have been one of their bright spots in that series. But Tyler, he comes out with that he's having a baby, and I'm thinking maybe that has something to do with his poor series. But it almost just seemed like Eric Spoelstra's game plan did not have very much Tyler Hero in it, and it just makes you wonder. Like, this is a guy that you weren't going to trade for guys like James Harden, Kyle Lowry, etc. And
weird.
Yeah,
I mean, I like Hero, but that's still that's a weird choice for a team that you think is win now.
Exactly, and that in the first, but just and then hindsight, you're like, okay, well now he's really going to be an important part, and then it's like he's non-existent in that series. So,
like, even if he turns into like a star, I still don't think it made sense to keep him.
Not for those. I mean, maybe for Kyle Lowry.
The Nuggets, like with R.J. Hampton, player I really like. I still like that trade because you want to win now.
I'm still 50-50 on that one. Andrew knows, but
yeah,
but
I just didn't think he was going to be ready quite fast enough, and you go for it when you can. But,
no, that's fair. I don't not like the trade, but fair. RJ's going to be a special player.
No, he's
going to owe it to Jokic to make a move to improve the team.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
You couldn't have predicted the Murray thing.
No, at all. No, that's a great point.
Although what you brought up another point about the guys that they did keep around for the Heat, several of them had some regression compared to last season, even over the course of the regular season. Having multiple instances of COVID hit the team didn't help either.
No. I think it's definitely, you think about like this playoff environment was definitely a lot different compared to last year. I don't think that helped.
No, exactly, and that's a good point. Yeah.
That experience, I don't know how much it helped because it's no fans to even limited capacity is just very different feel.
It is.
So, what do you think the Heat how should they approach their free agency?
Well, I think they kind of got screwed when they signed Victor Oladipo, and now you're like, what is going on? And it's like, we didn't even talk about him, but dude, they were expecting to have him, and now, like, Victor is a guy that was hoping to get a max if I'm not mistaken, and he's looking like a guy that is going to be lucky to get over $50 million contract at this point. I know there's teams that would take his services, but you can't trust his injury history. And it's unfortunate because I actually really like Victor Oladipo as a two-way player, not just like as a he's a gamer, man, and it's just unfortunate that what's gone on with him.
Yeah, I feel like
Does he
whatever
have
they
any
do.
contract left, or is he free agent?
Oh, he's a
I
free
think
agent.
he's the free agent. That was the whole catch in the Heat trading for him. And I'll say everyone clowned the Rockets for not getting much for him, but I'll say like in hindsight, Rockets might not be wrong for not wanting to, build around a guy like Victor Oladipo.
With that one, I'm like, I didn't know if they could get much with his injury history.
Yeah. And the way he's a rental.
I feel like fans, when they talk about like trade value, they assume they're like, well, it's I don't know. I think they're too biased at points.
Yeah, I agree. But I will say, just for the Heat, sorry, Andrew, just going forward, I think the Heat also need to really figure out if Bam is your center or is he your power forward. And that's like, I feel like that's going to affect so much how they move forward. I could see him definitely being either one, but to me, like, do you go get another big man, or are you going to get are you keeping Victor Oladipo? Or are you going to try to upgrade at the wing position, at the guard position? Is Goran Dragic not in the plans anymore? He's getting kind of old. I'm not sure about his contract situation, but they do have a lot of questions, and they have a lot of pieces. They were playing like 15 guys in their rotation. It seemed like it was for the play. I mean, not 15 probably, but like it was a lot of guys. Yeah.
I feel like whatever they do, they have to get back to the shooting depth that they had last season, because with the Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo as your two best players, they aren't particularly known for their shooting, and it's only going to make things harder if you try to plug in another guy into that rotation with them who's also a non-shooter as well.
Right. Victor's not like a great shooter. He's not a bad shooter, but like he's not really a catch and shoot guy either. Like I think he can, but you look at a guy like Goran too, he's not a catch and shoot guy. That guy likes to break guys down, ISO ball. And so, I think it worked for them last year because of their grittiness. And like you said, Jay Crowder in there, and it was, Jimmy and Bam, and, it was that grit against the world. And, I'm not going to knock what they did last year. I'm not going to call them the bubble Heat, but I just feel like, they definitely need to make some changes like the Celtics do.
Yeah, let's move on to the Hawks and Knicks series. How do you feel about that? What happened in that one?
I don't remember what I picked, but I think I didn't have much faith in either of these teams, and the Hawks have really surprised me. Like Trae Young is playing really damn good in the playoffs. I didn't know if he was ready yet.
Yeah, I think that's what everyone was asking. But
I mean, it's such a it's like I wasn't gonna overreact, because when you're like first time in the playoffs, it can be especially point guard position, that can be one of the toughest experiences. I'm thinking like Jamal Murray struggled in his first playoffs, and then it was a lot better the second time around. So I wasn't gonna sell him short, but I wasn't expecting this year.
Andrew, do you remember what Jamal's averages were his first round against the Spurs?
The Spurs?
Like, I thought he would. I didn't know. I thought, because you said he struggled. I didn't remember him. Did he struggle?
The first couple games he struggled, and then he played well.
He played well. Like, I just want to know what he was averaging for that series, because I thought that he played pretty. You know what? You're right. I think he was actually probably like every other game Jamal at that point. And yeah, that makes sense. So, look, Trae Young. It's funny that we say Jamal, because I was discussing with my friend. He asked me who's better, Trae Young or Jamal Murray, and I still want to lean Jamal with my bias. But dude, that man Trae Young just shut it down. And I'm not going to say that the Knicks are a first class caliber opponent, but it's not a bad Knicks team, first of all, and second of all, going into Madison Square Garden is not an easy place to go play. But they're clicking at the very right time, and he's not afraid of the moment at all.
No, it can be hard to judge Jamal because he's playing with Jokic.
That's the great point. He's saying, and that was what I asked. If you put Jamal on the Hawks, is he not doing basically what Trey's doing? And
I think he would, but it's you never know till you know.
Exactly. But and that's why I said I want to wait for this. That was before the playoffs started, and like I'm gonna give Trey. He is just. I love his swagger, man. Like I know he could be argued as a guy who fishes for fouls, but man, dude, like he hits huge shots, and he is a great facilitator. And like I just love his fire. He's just so fiery.
That was a rough series for Randall, though, on the other end.
He was brutal.
Oof, that was some Carmelo Anthony playoff moments.
Andrew knows.
I shouldn't say that.
No, Andrew knows I love Julius Randle. He was fantastic this year, but that was unexcusable.
I don't think he can be the number one option, and I'm not I thought he'd play better than that, but I'm not surprised. Like I think he could be a good 2, but
yeah, I think a really good 2. Like at the look, I'm not
all the attention. I don't think you can win in the playoffs around him. At least I'm not convinced yet.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not gonna say that's not fair. I just say that he didn't have much help, and Derrick Rose is your second best player, and I think they need to get more shooters around him in general. But he also needs another guy who's on his caliber, like on his level, and I just don't like until they get that. I don't think we're gonna be able to judge Julius completely just straight up, But I'm not going to. He was disappointing in that series, 100%.
At least with them being competent, maybe they could actually get free agents now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the question is, Julius Randle has a team option. So should the Knicks handle it in the way that the Nuggets did with Nikola Jokic and decline that option and make sure you lock him into a max deal? Because it's a situation, if you force him to play at that about 21 million next season, he could end up leaving for a larger contract the following year.
Yeah, if he leaves and you're not good again, that's probably not what you want. So even if they shouldn't, I do think they will give him a max.
Yeah, he's good enough, man. If you give him a 4-year max, you're not locked into anything crazy. Give him that. He was 20. What was he? 24, 10 and 7, or like around there, bro.
I'd give him the max. I think he's worth it.
Lock that man up. I think if the Pelicans could go back, they would have locked him up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing is with the Knicks is you still don't have that reputation yet of improving your culture. So I think they have to do things like try to make sure Julius is on an actual max this time around, as opposed to even a bargain for when he plays at this level when he signed over a couple years ago.
I think if he ends up leaving, that would set them back a bit, and free agents are going to stay away still. So we'll see what they do.
Yeah, they'll be hesitant anyway, man. Like, look, I don't think Thibodeau's reputation is like it's obvious. Like, starters either love that or they're not with it. They're not going to be ran into the ground by their coach. And so, but look, and there's a certain type of guy who will play for that, and as long as he's there. And as long as they're competitive, I think they do have a chance to get at least like good players. And at the end of the day, that's all you can really ask for. You want to keep contending and getting better as a team. So, and especially when you're a team like the Knicks, who didn't see the playoffs for, I can't even remember how many years in a row, but like, how many years after and prior to Carmelo Anthony. So, they'll take playoffs however they come over there. And good players.
Yeah, so let's shift over to the Western Conference now. Let's start with the Jazz and Grizzlies series. And Kevin, start us off with your thoughts on that series.
I think honestly, I wasn't able to watch many of these games. I only saw some of the highlights. But Ja looking real good. I don't know how Jaren Jackson Jr. played. That'd be my question. And with the Lakers out, I think it's looking a lot better for the Jazz. They could make a deeper run than maybe expected. And I don't know. Be interesting. It's kind of a one where it's like I didn't expect the games to be that good, so it wasn't prioritized watching for me. And I don't really like the Jazz, so I don't watch their games. I'm just a hater, though.
Fair enough.
So one thing that was obvious for me in that series from the Grizzlies' point of view is that they didn't have a true number one scorer to keep up and close out games because everyone on that roster is probably pegged a position too high in terms of scoring. Ja Morant's probably like a second or third scoring option. Jonas Valanciunas, third. Dylan Brooks is a third guy at best. Kyle Anderson's a fourth or fifth option guy. So there's a lot of things that would fall into place better if the Grizzlies ever managed to land a guy who could be a number one scorer for them.
Mm-hmm. I think they're a team. They probably just run it back next year, and you see what like your biggest weaknesses are, and then maybe use a trade or try to address it in free agency. I don't know. I think that would be my plan if I were them.
Yeah, it's funny. On my 2K and 2K20, I was the Grizzlies, and I got Brandon Ingram on basically that squad, and it worked pretty good. So and I look at a guy, they need a guy like that. Because, dude, if I see Jaren Jackson throw up one more three, I'm going to lose it. He has got to get in the paint, bro. Like, it's not, I don't know. And here's what the question is, though, because he's clearly, like, he's a decent shooter for his size, obviously, but you do not want another Kristaps situation where he's sitting on the freaking perimeter all game. Like, that's not ideal. But the question is, can he work with Jonas, or are you moving on from Jonas Valanciunas to kind of make him that guy down there? But that's what they're going to have to address. And I want to say that Dylan Brooks was unbelievable in that series. Like, not just good, he was next level good. Like, he looks like every bit of what I thought CJ McCollum would look like this year. And it's funny because, like, you would think that they had been playing opposite amount of years. Like, Dylan was the one in the league for 7 years, or however long CJ's been in it, and CJ was the young player in his first playoff series. It's just funny on the comparison. But Ja was incredible, and my question for the Grizzlies, besides the one with the bigs, is Brandon Clark in your plans anymore, or is he not? Because I'm pretty sure last year he was talked about as like a cornerstone piece, and now he's MIA. So I figured that out.
Yeah, it feels like he's a guy that he's pretty much a borderline rotation player when everyone's healthy, and that's probably going to stay the same if they improve the holes on the roster, as you would assume.
Yeah, fair enough.
So let's move next to the Lakers and Suns series, where the Suns caught a pretty big break with the Anthony Davis injury in Game 4.
Mm-hmm. And I just felt like the Suns the whole time just had this confidence that they were going to win that series in general. Like, it was awesome to see them, like Devin Booker in particular, step up. Like, it's not that I know this is a man who scored 70 points before, but to get back-to-back 40-point games and like eliminating playoff game, that's not a little deal. So I just feel like he showed everyone why he is paid the way he is and why all he needed was one more player to come help him. And bruh, is Chris Paul healthy or not? Because if he is, then the Nuggets got a problem on their hands. If he's not, then I feel like the Nuggets can win this series. So, but just sorry, and just not to get ahead, but LeBron was just a little bit drained. It looked like he wasn't ready at all. And
Yeah.
that groin injury is not something I take lightly. That's something that Will Barton still struggles with to this day. Like it just affects other lower body injuries trying to come back from that. And Gary Harris as well. And LeBron, when he got that years ago, it just feels like even though they won the championship, like I just felt like he always he didn't have the same burst like he always had. So I mean, I can't tell if that's age or if that's that groin injury.
So I gotta give credit to the Phoenix Suns because they were really the first team that had a balanced floor game offensively against the Lakers, even though I think they still played too slow of pace at times. But when you go against a team like the Lakers, even when they miss the impact of Anthony Davis, you got to be able to do more than what you excel at. So you can't just sit behind the perimeter and shoot threes or throw it into your big and bang inside the post all night.
Yeah.
They had some solid balance, and even DeAndre Ayton did play better than what he did in the regular season, and
I think he
and
was
that's
like
what
a
you need
huge
in order
X
to beat them.
factor for them because I thought Booker would show up. I thought he'd play very very well in that series. I wasn't so sure about Aiden. He was like the one I'm like, I don't know yet, and he impressed me.
Nah, he balled. Ayton balled. He definitely stepped up, and not what I like to see as a Nuggets fan because I guess I didn't notice this, but he kills Jokic. I just saw the numbers for their matchup, so
I don't know. I
like
think Jokic can play against any big.
no, of course it'll
Like,
go
I'm
both
not saying
ways.
like, yeah,
It'll go both ways, but just to
no, true.
see that DeAndre has that confidence against him, and he's coming off a really big series where he's feeling himself. I'm not loving that for the Nuggets, but I'm not. Yoke does what Yoke does, regardless.
True. No,
So with
I'm not sure how
the
I feel on that series, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, sorry, I keep getting ahead of myself.
You're fine. No,
so with the Lakers being
the Lakers
eliminated,
also just they did not have the right vibes. I think it's like they needed LeBron and AD, but like everyone else is just kind of a role player. It feels like on that team, and just waiting. They're looking to those two, and that's kind of how the team's built around. So I don't know. I wasn't exact. I was like I just didn't have good vibes about this Lakers team, which made me happy because I never want the Lakers to succeed. So yeah, I don't think they have I know some people were like making it sound like they have like another Shaq, Kobe, or Kareem Magic, and I'm like, I think LeBron is on that tier, but I wouldn't put Anthony Davis on that tier as with the others. I think Anthony Davis is really good, but not the same.
yeah,
to me, at least.
What you notice from this Lakers team is their two big acquisitions, Dennis Schroeder and Montrezl Harrell, is they played really well to start the season, but the bad part is they peaked in February about the time when they came into Denver and Davis had that abductor, that injury that put him out for about 3 months. And the fact that for a team that complained a lot about the short layoff, I was surprised at how little load management the team had early on in the season when they were rolling in at the top of the Western Conference and when they could have sacrificed some wins earlier in the season in hopes of it decreasing the likelihood of long-term injuries for LeBron James and Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
I smelled trouble when they signed Andre Drummond. So
I know some people got like upset about that. I'm like, okay.
I mean, it doesn't make like exactly like Andrew said. Like you have Montrezl Harrell, and did he even play in any of those games? In that, I'm not even sure he got in the Phoenix series.
I don't think so.
He might have had like garbage time.
Only played in 3.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, he was the big, and I thought they got better from last year with Dennis, and then Dennis throws up a goose egg in one of the games. So like clearly, they were shopping both of them at the deadline for a reason. I remember seeing rumors on both of them being moved, and it makes like LeBron clearly wasn't sold at any point with either of them. So.
Mm-hmm.
And what's clear about this Lakers team is they need a true third scorer and someone who could be a second scorer part time, because you know that you're probably going to have to manage the load of LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And with the current assets they have, they're probably going to have to take on a bit of a reclamation project in order to find that guy.
Yeah. No, they're it's crazy, and I'm sorry, on the Dennis Schroeder topic, they literally gave him that contract 4 years, $80 million, and he declined it. Like, you got to be some type of, all right, I'll just leave that alone. But either way,
He needs to fire his agent.
he needs to fire his agent, and also. Because I like Dennis Schroeder, but I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, it's also like a perfect situation. Like, if you guys are healthy, you guys are a contender, and you should, and you're a solid enough player, so you should be like, they weren't right in general. So I just feel like it's hard to judge them. But
Yeah.
him in particular, he did not play good. You did not rise your stock after declining that. You lowered it. So they're looking at like them trying to trade him now. He's also less valuable, but they might be able to re-offer him something a little less, and he might take that. So we'll see. But to me, they need another guy to, like you said, take the load off of both of them. And I'm not sure what form of player that comes in. Does it come in a guard? Does it come in a big? Does it come in a wing? I don't know.
Yeah, the first name that comes to mind potentially is Marvin Bagley. Then you look at the monitoring the wing situation in Minnesota and Atlanta for a potential guy as well. So I think those are things you got to look for if you're the LA Lakers when you try to make a trade or try to sign someone out at a value in the offseason.
Are you thinking Malik Beasley when you talk about the Wolves?
No, first guy I think of is Jared Culver.
Oh, right. And oh my God, I'm not sure what his stock is going to be. Like, I think people are pretty convinced he can't shoot. So, and that's funny because, like, I also thought he was going to be a solid player, but I guess he's way too much like Josh Okogie. So that's not, yeah, he could definitely go help a contender, like with defense, if he can embrace that role for sure.
Let's move on to the series that just ended today with the Mavericks and Clippers, which featured 6 straight road victories before the Clippers finally gaining control of the series.
It's like some 2019
midway
World
through the
Series
third.
shit.
I don't even want to really talk about this, Andrew. I lost a mean bet on the series today, but you know what? It's okay. Well, yeah, I'll power through it. But
Oof.
I'm gonna say Paul George was an assist off of the triple double, or was it a rebound? Either way, I think that would have been his first playoff career triple double, and he had his 2 best games at the perfect time, and the rest. And Marcus Morris hit 7 threes today. So if they get production like that from him, they're dangerous again. And I'm not sure they're going to come out the West. I'm not sure they're going to beat the Jazz, but if they're at their best, you can't sleep on the Clippers, obviously, but we all know how they get.
Yeah, the thing about the Mavericks is you, in a way, deserve to lose in Game 7 if you can't figure out a way to win one of your 3 home games after taking the first 3 road games.
Mm-hmm.
Then also the fact that today's game came down to unexpected performances from Marcus Morris Sr., Terrence Mann, and Luke Kennard, while Dallas pretty much went to Trey Burke and got a near goose egg from him. And I don't even get why Josh Richardson wasn't even a factor in this series.
Oh my God. Well, Josh did not do himself no favors. He has been atrocious this year. And I'm sorry, I'm a Josh Richardson fan, but his performance this entire year, it doesn't give Rick Carlisle a lot to trust. But going to Trey Burke over Jalen Brunson, that was nonsense. And I knew, and when he Trey threw up two of the most ridiculous layups, and I just felt like that's kind of like they were desperate to get something from somebody because Tim's coming off of two great games. Kristaps is not giving you much. He's limited. Boban actually had his best game with a series. And Dorian, I think, had like 7 offensive rebounds today. He was incredible. He gave you everything he could. And Luka 44, 14, 8, whatever he had, like that should be enough, but it's unfortunately not. And you got to give the Clippers some credit, though. I'm not gonna be too hard on the Mavericks.
So, who do you think is the best player the Mavericks could get right now if they try to trade Kristaps Porzingis?
Well, who?
That's a dead weight contract.
It is a dead weight contract, but there's other dead weight contracts. And my question is, do they want a guy like just say like a guy like DeMar DeRozan? Like, is that something that fits? And then do they re-sign Tim Hardaway Jr., who's I'm pretty sure a free agent? He's either a restricted free agent or a free agent, but those like they needed more shooting. So you let Tim go, you're now in a deeper hole in that aspect. And exactly, like I don't believe that they were shopping Kristaps for a reason, and I think they're going to continue to do that.
I was like questioning that trade at first because I'm like, I don't know if this is a good fit, and then he just did not work there.
It's crazy how the Knicks, in hindsight, kind of almost won that trade, and we were destroying the Knicks for that trade. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, it's for what they could have gotten for Kristaps at that time. Sure, you didn't. You got Dennis Smith Jr. and I think the draft pick that turned into, was it RJ or is it Emmanuel? I can't remember which one it is, but
I don't remember.
It's one of them, and it's more than like it's probably quickly, but either way, that like that's. It's funny because at the time, like I said, we thought the Mavs had cashed in. Oh no! Like even as a Nuggets fan, I was like, dude, these guys now they're a problem. Like, we already got to deal with the Lakers and the Clippers. Like now they're deadly. But
I guess
I
don't know. When I saw that, I'm like, oof, Nuggets are good.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know. I've just never been a Kristaps Porzingis like believer.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
I thought he'd be better than this though. He's been worse than I thought he'd be.
Well, you look like a genius for that now because he almost, in some aspects, is unplayable out there.
I guess I just have like that, like New York Knicks, like I ain't touching that.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, Andrew.
In terms of a contract that you would need to match things up in a deal, I think probably you won't get much better than Harrison Barnes.
No, but you said Marvin Bagley. I don't think that would be far off because the Kings are not sold on Marvin. So I think you talk about a team like Dallas that needs somebody, or you were mentioning a team earlier. I can't actually remember who
Lakers.
Said yeah, exactly. Who needs a guy that can be like revitalized? Well, the Kings might not be far off from that either because they cannot get out of mediocrity, and maybe Kristaps is that could be an interest. That's interesting right there, or Harrison though. Yeah.
When you brought up DeMar DeRozan, and Dallas is one of those few places where it would make sense for DeMar to go to in free agency.
They literally just needed points today, Andrew. They didn't need them in any specific way, in my opinion. Like, sure, you could use more shooting, but dude, if you have DeMar out there, like to basically run those bench minutes, and he starts obviously, but you probably pull him quicker and have him run with the bench. And when Luka's not in there, that'd be scary.
Yeah.
And finally, let's move on to giving our review of the Nuggets and Blazers series. One, I think we were all a bit surprised that they were able to close it out in Portland on Thursday.
Broke our curse.
Felt good.
And I like how you said the best for last. But anyway, the Blazers I'll start with the Blazers. They have a ton of questions because with the way Dame is talking already, I'm not sure. It kind of feels like he's fed up. So, and my biggest, I guess I'll say, like I was surprised about with them. Like CJ McCollum did. I don't think he showed up for one game like how he's truly capable of. Like he had decent games, but dude, I was expecting him to kill us. Like I was like, okay, in game 1 he didn't get us. Game 2, game 2 he didn't get us. He's for sure getting us game 3. He didn't get us game 3. I'd bet the house on game 4 that he's gonna have at least 25. And it just felt like he never could really get it rolling. He shot, I feel like, under 50% every game. So that's, I guess, credit the Nuggets, but it's also it's alarming for the Blazers because you might be looking at a real rebuild if you can't keep Damian Lillard there.
Remember how back in 2019 he said Torrey Craig's defense wasn't good, and then in this series you've seen him miss so many shots against John Cena defense.
Bruh. Oh my god, dude, I don't even remember him saying that, but yeah, dude. And the game 7, he was supposedly playing in front of his brother for the first time in like 3-4 years. Like, dude, like I'm not even gonna lie, I put a little bet on him. You know what? Throughout the course of Andrew's podcast, the viewers are gonna learn my bad betting history. But either way, because I didn't think there was any way that he didn't show up. Like he had to, and that's what's funny. Robert Covington was like offensively as good as he was going to get for them. And 2, Norman Powell pretty much gave you like 20 little less give or take every game pretty much. Like he had a couple, I think 1 or 2 maybe games under 15, but for the most part, I just felt like, and Nurk was pretty solid. Like to me, it comes down to CJ not playing good, and that's why they get lost in 6, let alone not getting to 7.
Well, I think the biggest issue is their construction is so offense heavy, and like for as much as the shit the Nuggets get, like the Blazers are the team the media thinks the Nuggets are in terms of defense.
Andrew, do you know that I heard something? They were like historically bad defensively. I can't remember.
Ranked defense, I believe.
They were like second
rating?
to last, but the Kings are still the historically all-time worst defensive rating.
Yeah, someone had told me that that Portland was atrocious. They were, of course, using it to against the Nuggets, but either way, like I just felt like the Nuggets proved that. I mean, you still cannot even take us lightly. Like they are.
Well, I think
locked in.
It was a good matchup for Jokic because even Nurkic, who did okay, still like there's no Jokic stopper on there. Nurkic ate up the second unit. It wasn't really when the starters were in. I'd be curious if you could find the splits. I bet he was a minus versus Jokic.
Yeah, exactly.
In the series.
No.
Obviously not as bad as Cantor, which was just a disaster.
And they almost stopped playing him. That was pretty funny, but yeah.
Am I the only one that feels like the Nuggets win in 2 years ago as well if Nurkic had been healthy instead of mainly going up against Cantor, which would have limited the impact of guys like Zach Collins and Myers Leonard in that series?
Probably.
Maybe, but
I mean,
Rodney Hood was destroying us that series. I'm not sure if there was anybody that was stopping
I think the problem
Rodney.
was like Gary Harris played well, but he was just stopping Lillard, and then we couldn't defend anyone else. The Nuggets in that series. So it's whoever Gary Harris didn't have was just destroying them, and Murray wasn't quite there on the defense yet.
Yeah, the thing you gotta also remember is Nurkic kind of siphons usage from those other 2 guys a bit, and it's subpar efficiency at times, especially with how bad his touch is from time to time.
And he's not a good shooter. Not even close. He can't draw you in like Jokic can, so you can kind of give him some space. But he's a decent passer, which is where he hurts you. But to me, Portland didn't know where they wanted to run their offense through. Like if it wasn't Damian Lillard, like I think they tried to use CJ, but when he clearly didn't have it on multiple occasions, like it just looked like they were kind of desperate for buckets from guys. Like when they were successful against us, they were getting really good bench production from like Carmelo, Anthony Simons, I can't. Yeah, I mean, and his cancer, but yeah. So just to me, they just seem like he said, they're so offensive oriented. They're not good defensively, but they're almost too offensive oriented to where they might have too many options. It looked like CJ was afraid to step on Dame's toes as well as Norman's, and then vice versa, and the other way around. I mean, Dame's going to get his, but yeah. So
Yeah, I think the problem with the Blazers is they don't really have great offensive versatility. They have Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, who they're mainly jump shooters, and they don't have a guy who's above average in terms of attacking the rim or scoring in the paint.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of options in the playoffs. It's like if option one isn't working, the Damian Lillard going off there. It can really slow you down when you need that.
Definitely.
Let's go back to CJ McCollum, because when you think of the guys that you could have gotten in return for a trade, think back 2 years ago, you could potentially have pulled off a trade for Paul George. Then even last year, if you felt like it was time to make the change, you potentially could have forced the Bucks to give up Chris Middleton. So that's a couple examples of CJ McCollum trades you may have been able to get if you had done it a year or two sooner, but now you're not looking at that same type of return in a trade if they go that direction in the offseason.
I think he's still valuable, though. Like, you could still get something good for him, but maybe not as good. But I think there's half the teams in the league will still take CJ McCollum's services.
And
interesting if they want to keep Nurkic too.
Yeah, he was saying he wasn't sure if he was coming back or if he was in the plans. He didn't know what the plans were, and so they fired Terry Stotts. And I think we're at the beginning of
maybe he wants to go to the Clippers and get embarrassed by Jokic or something.
Who knows, man? Like,
he can be the new Herald.
Yeah, who knows? The Clippers need a big.
That was mean.
No, Clippers do need a big, though. I will say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is with CJ McCollum, he's like among the guys who are clear number twos in this league.
Maybe three.
Besides him and Ben Simmons, those are the two guys who probably have the biggest jump up in potential ceiling if they're a clear number one on a different team. So even though CJ's a bit older than Dame, he still has a chance to give you a year or two like that if you roll the dice on the trade.
I just don't really see too many places and first of all, a CJ-led team is winning 30 games max, but he also, I don't see very many places he could go to where they could win too. Maybe like you say Nurk to the Clippers, maybe CJ to the Clippers as their third option. If that's I'm not sure what they'd have to trade back. Maybe like a Terrence Mann and some picks or something like that. But I don't know. But to me, CJ was in the best situation possible, and he really couldn't step up to the plate.
Yeah, I think the first team that pops to mind if they trade him east would be the Knicks. That'd be a good spot for him, and he adds a bit of shooting to that roster as well.
Where's he from? Do you remember where he's from? Ohio? Is he from Ohio?
Akron.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, he probably doesn't want to go to Cleveland, but
who does?
Yeah, but you know what? I'm actually curious. Maybe the Pacers try to revamp their shooting one more time, and they're not sold on TJ Warren's health or Jeremy Lamb's. I mean, Jeremy Lamb, you're probably done with him anyway, unless you have him on your contract one more year. But CJ, to them, that I mean, shit. I think the way Karis LeVert is used, you could use him as a 3 or a 2 or a 1. So who knows, man? If he's a Midwest guy.
And do you think potential new head coach will do anything for the team, or is it going to take some stronger roster transformation in order for a new head coach to really matter for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they need a new roster.
Yeah,
I don't know how much you really put on Terry Scott.
Yeah, no, that's and I got into arguments with people about that. Like, what else can he really do? Like, their defensive philosophy isn't good, but it's not like you have defensive players for a good defensive philosophy. Like, you have Robert Covington. That's about it. I mean, I'm kind of a guy who thinks CJ McCollum could be good defensively, but he was getting destroyed by Monte Morris, so I'm not sure how sold I am on that anymore.
Yeah.
But either way, they're going to need a couple years to adjust to whatever this new coaching, playbook or style is. But yeah, to me, they just need to change it. And Dame, it's run its course, and I just don't see unless they can go get someone like a big like Joel Embiid or like a really like another one caliber type of player. I just don't see anything changing there.
So let's talk more about what we felt good about the Nuggets doing in that series, because it was clear that the Denver was the team that played harder throughout the majority of the series, and the fact that the bench actually exceeded expectations. I feel like Faku exceeded expectations. I think Monte just barely getting to the point where we thought he could potentially be if he were healthy right after the Jamal Murray injury.
Mm-hmm.
Then Austin Rivers, he's exceeded expectations. So there's a lot of positive that came from the Nuggets standpoint.
Don't forget Aaron.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
I think he did fine. Both ends.
You left him out purposely. Oh.
No, I forgot about him.
I thought that was a good sign that he can guard guards decently.
Yes. No,
considering the Nuggets traded him to deal with Anthony Davis, LeBron types, so they didn't.
I mean, specifically CJ, because I actually think that he did really bother CJ. But yeah, I mean, no one's guarding Dame. But
no, but he went like
he challenged himself and picked it up, and I like that. He's really embracing the role that I actually questioned if he was embracing up to like 3 weeks ago, if he was actually in that. But dude, he was clearly, dealing with some of the ankle from when he got hurt in Orlando, and I think the Nuggets were kind of pacing him. Yeah. And he's shown up to me at the perfect time. He's given you around like 13 and a half. I think like 13 and a half points a game in in that series. But Yoke, did he not average 34 points a game in the series?
34. 33? I don't remember.
Either way, man, it just felt like every night he was like, I'm getting 35, and then everything else we'll figure that out.
11 and 4.
He was just
were down.
And you know what? And that's good. Exactly. Me and Andrew specifically, I just know on Twitter we want Yoke to honestly sacrifice some of the dimes to put away games,
especially with who he was playing around.
Yep.
He's been dude, and we got to give a shout out
Murray or even Barden out there too.
Right.
I think his assists would go up because not in a bad way, because
absolutely
other playoffs he would more close games, but now he's just playing the whole thing because of who he's playing with.
And that was the Blazers' game plan. They wanted Nikola to score, so it's not like he was not passing. He was up to his usual tricks. But to me, we need to shout out Austin Rivers. He was really good in a lot of these games and hit like big shot after big shot. Monte was obviously two of the biggest games of his career back to back, and it could not come at a better time. 22 and 28 points, and
I just don't want to hear the Fire Malone shit for a while.
Oh, bro, I mean, just. Not just but just
we shouldn't be asking. Years too late.
Yeah, I mean, at points over the last couple of seasons, I've kind of questioned sometimes his philosophy, but at times like this, you gotta eat that L. So but
I feel like Malone delivered his best performances when Nuggets Twitter put him on the coaching hot seat, especially when he won 7 of the last 8 in 2018. Then when Nuggets Twitter put him on the hot seat again last year during the Utah series, and how he turned that around.
Yeah, and I'm one of them. But
That's okay.
he was literally he was on top of he was like ahead of rotations. Like before I could say get that guy in there, he was in there, and I just really appreciated that this series because he didn't want any excuses, and the guys in return gave him their best series as a unit, and that's fantastic.
I think he's grown as a coach. He's improved every year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the thing I didn't like about Malone a lot in the regular season is he tried to ride with the starting five to end the second quarter for like 6 or 7 straight minutes.
Yeah.
But the thing that he did a lot in this playoffs is he'd recognize that there'd be a guy that would need to go out with about 3 or 4 minutes left and he'd chaff. And I think that really showed a lot more in the series against the Blazers.
Absolutely. No, he was and I just like how and this is one thing you can give him alone credit for the most. He's his game plan is solid, like it's 100%, and he's not going away from that. And they change it up very seldomly, and they stick with what they know.
So let's get into some of the other second round series real quick before we jump back to finish up with Nuggets and Suns at the end. So the Bucks and Nets started last night, and although James Harden went out with that hamstring injury less than a minute in last night, and he's also ruled out for game 2 tomorrow, do you think the Bucks will eventually adjust? Because it felt like last night the rest of the guys on the Nets were able to outplay the absence, and what commonly happens is you can do that for about a game or two, but then the absence gets felt more longer over time.
Go ahead, Kevin.
We're talking Nets and Bucks, right? Sorry, I just lost my train of thought for a second.
You're good, yeah.
I don't know. I think I'm definitely feeling Nets in the series. Too much firepower, but it could be an upset. This is like the only team I think can really beat them from the East. To be honest, this is the conference finals for me.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. But it was not reassuring to me that the old Bucks looked like they were in attendance yesterday, and that to me, and that just I didn't think that they would miss Dante DiVincenzo as much as it looked like they did yesterday, and it just did. And I just felt like with James going out in that first one, you got to pounce on them in that first play. You gotta establish that you're at least here for like the long haul. And like last night, Giannis falling for them threes is almost like the first sign to me that they are right back in that bullshit. So excuse my language.
Oh no, you're good, Sonny. But yeah, I originally said Nets in 6 with Kevin about 3 weeks ago when we did our playoff preview special, and I don't think there's anything that really changed that feelings. In fact, I feel a bit more down on the Bucks now, seeing how they played last night. And you were right, Sonny, about how Dante DiVincenzo is definitely more. You need more of an impact from him if he were here in this series. And Drew Holiday, it's also where his shortcomings get shown in this series as well, because he's not a natural shooter. He's more of a distributor and attacker type.
Yeah, literally. That's why I always like when we call guys playmakers. To me, like they have like that's why I'm always like selective with that term, because that to me is a guy who can literally get his own anytime, and that means, and I just don't see Drew being that type of guy. But Drew is fantastic. He does make them better, and Chris Middleton cannot have 13 points. If he doesn't have at least 20 points, I tweeted it, they should lose by 20 points at least. And they actually get lucky because they lost by 11 or whatever. DiVincenzo's a rebounding guard. That's really what mainly affects the Bucks, and he's a defensive guard, obviously. But it really wasn't the defense yesterday. It was the offense. They could never get it going. And like I said, if Giannis does not just exploit the Nets' paint defense, then they might get swept.
Yeah, you can't underrate the X factor that Blake Griffin proved to be last night.
That was funny.
For my betting people, his 15 points and their win was at 5,500 on FanDuel. And somebody I saw put 500 on it. He won $27,000, but he was fantastic and got the double-double, 18 and 12. He was great. He hit 4 threes too. Like, you can't make that up.
I don't remember with who it was. They might have been you, but someone's like, "Oh, he's a toaster strudel," and I'm like, "That shit's delicious."
And I woke him up. Oh, you are good. I almost forgot I tweeted that. That's pretty good.
I'm like, those are delicious. I guess you should have said he was that.
They are delicious, but I guess I meant it in the bad terms where he was getting 8. But dude, he looked really good. Like, but hey, let me ask you guys this: if James Harden doesn't get hurt first play of the game, does he even get close to that performance?
No.
I think it's possible he still plays those minutes.
Yeah.
Especially as a contrast play to the other Bucks bigs of Lopez and Portis.
He's definitely not asked to do as much.
Yeah.
But that's the most involved and like inspired I've seen Blake Griffin in easily 3 years. Not even close.
I still do not understand. Like, I'm partially a Pistons fan. That was one of the worst trades they ever made.
It sucks because like they needed to do it at the time. I know it in hindsight, it's a bad trade, but you got to
rebuild because I thought their team was awful. But I'm just
me too. No, I did too. I was disappointed they didn't, and they kept thinking guys like Drummond and Blake were gonna get them somewhere. And Reggie Jackson, I should add. But when you're a team like Detroit and you're desperate for star power, you kind of have to do it. So like but hey, if you're a Pistons fan, the future is bright. Don't worry.
Yeah. Can't get worse. Shit.
Can't, but no, Sadiq B and Killian Hayes, you really can't, and Isaiah Stewart, you can't get like a better 3 first-round picks, in my opinion. And the way they played this year kind of reaffirmed that. They all look to be very good young players.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the other Eastern Conference second-round series with the Sixers and Hawks, and that was kind of a surprising performance today from Atlanta.
I caught it, but Trey is here, and I feel like that's what needs to be said first. But I'm actually really surprised Embiid played that good. And to me, Ben Simmons played good, and actually Tobias played good, and they still lost. That's pretty crazy to me. I mean, I know Tobias probably didn't shoot great. I couldn't tell you his numbers, but when you get 20 and 10 from him, and then you get a pretty solid performance from Ben Simmons, who I think had like 5 combined blocks, steals, you got to win that game. And Joel gives you 30 plus. You got to win, and they didn't win.
I think it's a testament to Atlanta, even though they finished that game poorly enough to where they won't feel too good about just coming out of Philadelphia with just the split. And I think you'll probably want to be more determined in game 2 with that type of finish. But I got to give credit to Atlanta. It's another matchup where I thought a team like Philadelphia could be more physical and dictate the pace, and they came out and led that game the majority of the way by 15 to 20 points. And Trae Young proving to be a primetime performer again. And also John Collins is another guy exceeding expectations. And Bogdan Bogdanovic is being much more consistent than I thought he would be, especially from what he showed when he was in Sacramento.
Mm-hmm. Bogdan has literally like clicked at the perfect time. Like it started like 15 games in the regular season, and he's been fantastic. I think they lost Trey at one point for a little bit, and then, but here's what I wanted to say about the Hawks really quick. like I already said, clicking at the perfect time as Bogdanovich is, which is, and Trey just shows you why he is so like he does it almost for the show aspect, like he loves pleasing a crowd, and like I just feel like those are superstars. They don't get intimidated by big crowds, and like that's the start of it. And um, John Collins continues to hit huge buckets. Like, it's not asked to do that much. And when you look at the stat sheet, you're like, John should be doing more. I thought he was almost their second best player, but dude, he's like really in there for defense, and he's limited offensively, and he's hitting huge threes. I mean, he hit huge threes today, and he did it in the Knicks series. And then last thing, Clint Capella and Kevin Huerter, underrated toughness wise. Clint Capella never gets his credit for how tough he is. He never backs down from anything or any challenger.
Trade.
Underrated trade. I mean, yeah, underrated trade. And he makes them very good defensively, and they're clicking defensively in particular at the perfect time. And Kevin Huerter is a tough SOB. That kid can play on my team. He's tough.
Yeah. That's the real team that, for as much as people thought the Rockets were fleeced for Oladipo, the real fleecing happened with Clint Capella. That odd trade that never made sense.
Never made sense. I always felt like after that the Rockets were destined to just blow it up because
it was just a desperation.
It was a desperate and Covington actually worked for them, which was what was weird. But just Capella to me was still getting better, and he still is. And defensively, that dude is a problem, and he's getting you 15 boards a game. He's basically the little off-brand version of Rudy Gobert, but you could argue this year he was doing basically the same thing. He just wasn't as good of a team.
Yeah, and when you look back at that Rockets trade, when we decided to try to go all in on small ball, and I'd like to say that I don't even think they had the best small ball five in the NBA. I felt like Boston had a better version of that before Gordon Hayward left, but that team never got quite fully healthy enough to get past the Heat.
Yeah, other teams do it. The Suns are doing it this year. The Suns go small when DeAndre's either struggling or he's not in there. They don't really have a backup center, and Dario gets a lot of those backup center minutes. And I seen a little bit of Jalen Smith, or isn't that who they signed? Jalen Smith, yeah. But for the most part, the Suns, they're a great defensive team, and that works for them. I've seen Jay Crowder being used as their five. It's weird.
So, how much of a test can the Atlanta Hawks prove to be? Or can they take the Sixers to 6 or 7 games?
They can win this series, Andrew, 100%. And I'm not saying they're a better team than the Philly, especially if Joel is there. But they're literally, I'm going to keep saying it, clicking at the perfect time. This is a confident, young team that they feel like they got something to prove. And I just keep seeing better and better play from them later we get in the year. And like I said, Trey, he's a leader.
And how about you, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm liking this Hawks team. It'll be interesting. I don't know how far they can make. It'll probably need another move or some sort of something around the edge to get into contention, but it's going to be interesting.
Where I think they can
upgrade.
upgrade.
Player in the East that people didn't give any credit.
Yeah. And that's because they weren't playing that good. Like, they made the trades, and at the beginning of the year, people thought, all right, this Hawks team, they look good on paper. They got off to a weird start. I think they dealt with injuries, and then they're just we haven't even talked about Gallo. He's a guy who gives them experience, grit, just good shooting off the bench, and he's not even playing but 15 minutes a game. And DeAndre Hunter, and that dude is a problem, man. And he's not even all the way healthy. I know he's not, but once he gets really confident, they are going to be a problem. The only place I could see them.
People just caught up on the Luka thing still?
I don't think so. I think Trey has people.
Are they done with that?
Question. Nah, it's not even that. I mean, Luka's incredible, and he deserves that.
They're just different. They're different players.
They really are. But they are both game changers and they literally take games over. And whatever way they do it.
I'm still thinking, just the way the game's built, you could argue that a wing is easier to build a championship for, I think you could make that argument. But these are both great players, so I don't think either team is like embarrassed.
No, bro. They are everything advertised, and just the fact they do it in the playoffs, and John Moran, I'll throw in there too. All three of them, they just have overperformed in the playoffs to me. And just to finish on the Hawks point, the only place I could really see them upgrading, and they looked to shop John Collins at one point. If they can get a more like versatile scorer, and he has to be able to play that defense that John Collins does. That's the only place I can really see them upgrading. I mean, maybe they get a shooting guard but I really can't see another guard taking touches away from Trey. I just really can't see it.
Yeah. By the way, shout out to Gallo for finally making it past the first round. I think this was the first time in 6 tries.
My man.
And then when you go to add a quick point about this Luka and Trey Young, yeah, I think Luka is clearly the guy who can carry flawed rosters year in, year out. Trey, he needs a bit more talent around him, but there's no question that if both guys have those conditions met, that they can both produce at a high level. As for the series, I think I've got a feeling that this is going to be a 7-game series when it's all said and done.
Me too. And on the Trey Luka point, Trey has a much better roster around him than Luka does. And that's why Luka reminds a lot of people of LeBron, because he's carrying trash to the playoffs. People are trying to tell me at the beginning of the year that this Dallas team is good. I'm like, no, dude. Luka Doncic is different. That motherfucker could carry. Oh my God, you put him on any team, and I just feel like they're at least in that play-in thing now. So that dude is different.
So let's see what you guys think of what will happen in the Jazz and Clippers series. Does the Tyronn Lue stay committed to Marcus Morris at center to start that series off, or does he go back to Zubats? Because traditionally teams try to continue to do what worked well for them in the previous series, or do you think Lue will make that adjustment right off the bat?
Go ahead, Kevin.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not super familiar with how Ty Lue coaches. My gut tells me he's gonna keep him in at least for game 1 and see how that goes, and then maybe the adjustment comes game 2 or at half for game 1. But
that's such a good question, Andrew. Like, I literally cannot tell you. Like,
I wouldn't be surprised either way, but like, I don't know.
I'm gonna tell you this.
Has been like a coach, at least from my perspective, of one who's like worried about like the atmosphere, like the locker room vibe. So he might go off like how that feels too.
That's Andrew. I want to repeat that. That is a great question, dude, because Marcus Morris is coming off 7 threes today. But if you put Marcus Morris on Rudy Gobert, Rudy might win this series by himself. But that's the problem. The alternative for the Clippers is I never liked Ivica Zubac. I never have. And he just, to me, is so limited, even defensively. Like, he doesn't jump high, so he can't really give you much rim protection, and he's slow. So he gets burned by them pick and rolls all day if they put him in pick and roll. You probably stick to what's hot because he is shooting good. And they might put Kawhi on him.
If you try to get Kawhi on him.
Yeah, exactly. You might put Kawhi on him.
That's what might make the most sense of their roster.
To be honest, I think they're going to they might – have they been running a zone somewhat? But I feel like they've just been putting Kawhi on the best player. Like, they put Kawhi a lot on Luka and kind of they switch a lot too, what I noticed. So I'm kind of feeling like they're in a zone.
Early in the game, they play someone else and then to avoid foul trouble or anything.
Because Utah is a pick and roll team.
Yeah.
They will not be able to avoid that.
I don't know. See how they That's an interesting question because
Andrew, what do
there's
you
going to be
think?
points where Kawhi can't even be on him, so you're going to have.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Andrew, what do you
I
think?
think this is the one area where I think if the Clippers stay committed to Marcus Morris at the five, and with what we've seen from Rudy Gobert is when you force him to guard out on the perimeter, that's where you really neutralize him.
Mm.
And it's hard because most teams do not have a center who can force Rudy Gobert to play away from the basket. And
Haha.
regardless of who he guards, he will have to be away from the basket to some degree. And I think
Yeah.
for if you're the Clippers, you have to try to see how well you can commit to that. And also, you've got you should have Serge Ibaka back at some point in that series as well as a mix-up option, even though it's that signing has looked pretty bad for them
Yeah.
with how much he hasn't been there for them this year.
Yeah, he just hasn't been there. That's all that
Yeah.
needs to be said. But to me, the Clippers, they're their best when they run small. So that's going to be such an interesting thing to see. That's why I don't think they can really hang with the Jazz very long. I think, to me, the Jazz are probably winning this series in 6 games. They're too good of a shooting team, and to me, they have different guys that they can throw at Kawhi to where I just don't see how they neutralize Rudy. I don't think they necessarily have to have Rudy on Marcus like to pull him out. I think they're a good enough switching team as well to where they'll just get somebody else on him.
Is Serge Ibaka still hurt?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Is this a series that where DeMarcus Cousins finally plays a role in it?
Oh, I kept wondering, like, yes, that's exactly what you're going to see. At least 10 minutes of it.
Do you at least try to run him with in the Derek Favors minutes?
Oh, yeah. Oh my God. Yeah,
I mean,
that's the question though. Is
sometimes
Zubac
he can
getting
shoot threes?
Yeah,
Who?
no. Sometimes Cousins
No.
can shoot threes, but not
Yeah.
not lately, really. But
It's
is Zubac
inconsistent.
going to play in this series? That's my question. Like, if Zubac is playing, then I don't really think there's much time for DeMarcus Cousins because I think Zubac might be getting those 10 minutes that you're going to put a big on Rudy. So we'll see, but we'll see.
Yeah, but the thing is with Zubats is at best he may be a neutral net rating guy, and DeMarcus Cousins in a short time he could turn the tides a bit if he finds his offense, and both of
Yeah.
those are pretty unknown.
It's just like, do you want to trust Boogie finding his offense in the playoffs? I'm not sure, but that's up for them to decide.
So, do you still think the Jazz can win this series, Kevin?
I mean, I don't know. I don't feel good about the Jazz. I'm not a Jazz believer. I guess there's still stuff where it's like, I think Mitchell is good, but I don't think he's a superstar. And I think he can do it for a game or two, like go off, but I don't think he can carry a team through a series. Will it matter in this series? I think it will. I think Kawhi and Paul George are playing very well. I think Kawhi is going to have a hell of a series. I don't know who can really stop. No one really can, and I don't think they're going to do a good job slowing him down.
They just have different guys they can throw at him that I like Royce O'Neal, George Niang. I mean, even Bogdanovich is
going to
big.
make it tough for Mitchell. That's probably where Kawhi is going, not Gobert, but it'll be interesting how that goes. I'm not sure.
I just think, too much firepower from the Jazz, man.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say I'm thinking Clippers in 6. That's just my feel.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. I wouldn't be shocked, but I don't got a good feeling about this Jazz team.
What I'll give you from that Clipper side is that they are more recently coming off like a very disappointing semifinals. So like that taste is still in their mouth. They get some of it out tonight today winning, But to me, that's still a team that should be hungry to get to the Western Conference Finals, which the Nuggets ripped from them. So I think it's going to be a good series regardless. I don't see one of these series being a sweep, to be
No,
honest.
it's gonna be a close series.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone's series in those, but I'm leaning Clippers for that one.
And Andrew, last thing about the Jazz. Memphis better than I thought they were coming into that series. Absolutely, and that's what my takeaway was. So for them to get 2 games doesn't really, to me, feel like the Jazz being not a 1 seed. It feels like that Grizzlies team was starting to roll at the perfect time, and John Morant is like transforming in front of our eyes. So the Jazz, to me, with Donovan coming off of a 15-game absence or so, they looked about as good as you could look, in my opinion. And they were scoring, it felt like 120 every night. So they're a hard team to beat unless they're missing threes.
Yeah, so my answer is that I still believe the Jazz will win this series because even when the Clippers decide to go small ball 5, I don't think it'll work well enough to where they can get Rudy Gobert off the floor. I think they'll be able to neutralize that. And plus the fact that Utah doesn't, it's kind of a good thing for a team like them to where they don't have to be overly reliant on a guy, but Donovan Mitchell is still good enough to take over when necessary. So I think Jazz can win this in 7.
I think I'll sleep in a little bit on Donovan. That man just scored 20 and a quarter in game 6. So I just feel like he's rolling. And last year in the Denver series, yes, he wasn't great when when they had their backs to the wall, but don't forget he scored 56, wasn't it? Or 57 in that against Jamal?
57 in game 1.
Once Gary Harris came back.
Right. And that's why we'll love Gary forever. But
yeah.
To me, Donovan, you're right. He's not a superstar yet. I think he has superstar capability.
Maybe.
He passes the ball better than people give him credit for. He's a better rebounder than people give him credit for. And he's a pretty good defender. So sometimes he gets into he feels like he has to score too much. So his defense kind of takes a hit and he gets into his reaching shit. But
too much hero ball.
Yeah, sometimes they actually need it, though, when guys like Clarkson, Bogdanovich, and Ingles has been not good. I'm not going to really say much about him, but when their normal shooters aren't hitting, then Donovan kind of has to go into that role.
Yeah, so let's finally get into that series that we really came here to give the preview for with the Nuggets and Suns, and I feel like Nikola Jokic is going to will the Nuggets to at least 2 wins regardless. But how will this matchup play out, especially with the unknown still of Will Barton and PJ Dozier coming back at some point?
I'm thinking even PJ might matter more just for defense end, because it seems like they'll be able to get offense. I think MPJ has a better series than last. He's just getting better every series. I don't know. I've just had a real hard time getting a feel for this series. I think the Suns are really good. I just don't have a good feel for it, but I still am like Aiden on Jokic. Jokic is gonna thrive. I think it's a little overrated how Aiden played against Jokic in the regular season, but maybe I get proved wrong. I think Booker balls out. Chris Paul, as you said, I think you brought it up shortly, but Chris Paul, that's a question. Is he healthy? Is he hurt?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of questions for both teams right now.
Yeah. Andrew, I'm a little worried about Will Barton trying to find it in a semifinal, to be honest. And I'm a Will Barton enthusiast. That just does not smell good to me. And in my opinion, the way you just close that series out, I wouldn't change anything. I just don't see the need to. Austin's shooting good enough to, sure. Like, yes, if you can get Will and PJ in there for those little bench spurts, I think they could help somewhat, but even the bench is finding it. So I'm not sure that I just don't really know what either of their roles is going to be going forward. And Facu, Austin, and Mate playing so good, it's questionable if you really need them to do that much right now. But later down the line, yeah, I mean, you probably have to get them integrated. But for this series, I'll ask you, Andrew, what is Devin Booker average this series?
Right now, I'd probably say somewhere in the low 30s because it isn't like he isn't like Damian Lillard in the sense that when he feels it, he's going to look to shoot every time. It's more done within a natural flow of the offense because they tend to they play pretty slow and they don't really force the pace very often. And I think that's one thing that's going to hurt the Suns a bit in the against the Nuggets is the fact that the Nuggets they don't mind if playing slugging it out in a grind out affair. I think if you wanted to hurt Denver more, you'd probably force the pace a bit, get them out of their groove of really efficient half court offense, which still manages to get you in the 110s, 120s regardless.
Yeah. If you can, to me, if the Nuggets can limit the Suns from three, and then I feel like they should control the series. But Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder, Cameron Payne, Cameron Johnson, obviously Devin, if they're on, and Nuggets have this tendency to let other teams burn them. We've all seen that, and it just always, and even if they're not letting them, it just always feels like other teams are scorching against the Nuggets. I expect the Nuggets to come out and win game one tomorrow, though, because Devin's coming off back-to-back 40-point games. I expect him to cool out a little bit.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
You're good. No, I just want to see if Chris Paul is healthy. I mean, everybody does. Yeah. And if Yoke's going to continue to score at this rate, and if Michael Porter can find more consistency in the 20s, and I just don't see how the Nuggets lose this series. The 3 games we played in the regular season were fantastic games, though, and they needed a lot of Jamal Murray, so I will say that.
I do think it's interesting. Those were some of MPJ's better games. I mean, he didn't have like high scoring games, but he had good all around games. So I think he's a big X factor for the Nuggets.
You're saying in those Suns games, Kevin?
Yeah,
exactly. I'm looking at his numbers. He was averaging around like 11 and 8, but on like 50% shooting from 3 and
considering
field
how
goal.
little shots he was taking.
Exactly. At the time, you remember Jamal probably averaged 30 in those 3 games, if not more. So,
my gut is Booker's. His points go down, but I think his assists go up.
That could be
I feel like it's going to be more like how much he can distribute, because I think they're gonna especially lock in on him, double him hard, and if he can find those passing lanes and get people open, I think that's going to be Devin Booker's like biggest thing for this series, more than just shooting.
Exactly.
I think he can do it, but we'll see. I don't know if he's there quite yet. Also, if Chris Paul is there, that's like a lot of the load off of him, where the offense doesn't run solely through him, which I think would help a lot.
Yeah. Andrew, what is Ayton average in this series then?
I think he probably does something above his regular, slightly above his regular season, like 18 and 12. I don't see him getting the same type of increased usage that he found himself fall into during the Lakers series. And with the way that the Suns play, I think they may be leaving this series a bit too open for the Nuggets if they tried to play a balanced, distribute the offense around. When I think what would probably work better is trying to milk the hot hand as much as they could, and that looks like what would likely happen if Devin Booker finds fire. Because the bad thing is, other than Aaron Gordon, you don't have someone who could match up well size wise against him.
I wanna read some numbers really quick, Andrew, because I've heard a lot that Jamal Murray, which I remember him being really good in those series, because did not those back to back we had when both games were in Phoenix, those were both overtime games. If I'm correct? Okay.
Yes.
In the 3 games that Jamal played against Phoenix this year, he had 31 points the first game, 18 the second game, and 26 in the third game. I mean, bro, like those aren't like irreplaceable numbers. Like he played very good, and we miss Jamal, but people are acting like we can't win this series without him. And I want to read 4 players' numbers. Or we already went over Mike, so I'll do 3. Jokic versus the Suns this year. 25.7 points a game, 13.7 rebounds a game, 8.3 assists a game, 1.7 steals a game on 51% shooting from the field and 50% shooting from 3. All right. Devin Booker versus the Suns in the 3 games this year, 26.5 points a game, 3.5 both assists and rebounds, 6.5 turnovers a game though. I actually do remember him being pretty like all over the place, like kind of like flustered in those games. They do run a lot through him, obviously, but he shot 53% from the field and 37.5% from 3. And then Ayton is the one that everyone and I didn't really even notice this. Like I said, I didn't realize Ayton was playing this good against us. 22 points, 12 rebounds, 1 assist, 1.5 blocks, 70% shooting from the field, 25% from 3. He's not really a 3-point shooter, but it's just interesting to me. I wonder if Phoenix almost gets too confident in Ayton's ability against Jokic, and we are a much different team than we were those 3 games. Like we are not even really close to the same team we were. Jokic averaging 26, that's like similar, but like at this rate, he's scoring more than that right now. And our defensively, Aaron Gordon should give some resistance to DeAndre Ayton, as well as Michael Porter Jr. playing better and more confident on both ends of the ball.
So, guys, how do you think Yoke needs to change his offensive strategy in the Sun series? Does it involve trying to work to get him switched off onto like Crowder, Cam Johnson, Torrey Craig, or does it include him being more of a volume 3-point shooter, even more in line with the Jazz series last year?
Go ahead,
I
Kevin.
don't know. I definitely think what we saw at the end of the series, because you saw Morris getting healthier and Morris was closing the games, and even if he's technically not starting, I think Morris is playing the majority of the minutes. Like, I don't know, 30, where Facu's probably only playing like 20-ish.
They kind of go to the hot hand, I will say.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the pick and roll with them is what I like. And I think that also opens up MPJ more. He's going to have some more open looks.
I expect more Facu this series, just because Chris Paul, especially if his shoulder, it's just because of his.
Do you think they play Morris and Facu?
Yeah, no, you're going to see plenty Monte. I'm just saying Facu at times would get taken out of that series because Dame was destroying him. But I don't see Chris being as much of an offensive threat with his shoulder right now. Like, I'm not saying he can't produce, but I just think Facu will be able to be in there as long as he's not getting torched. What I will say for Yoke, and I'm not saying that affects Yoke. Sorry, Andrew, just in general. But Yoke, to me, why he's so good is because he takes what the defense gives. So it obviously, to me, comes down to what the Suns are going to play him as. If they, like the Blazers, want him to score and limit his facilitating, then guess what? Jokic isn't going to really change much. He's going to probably average about 35 again. If they want to double him, he can average a triple-double for the series, in my opinion. So to me, though, his scoring cannot waver if they need it. Like I just cannot emphasize this enough. I know he's got to be a little bit tired from this run and last year's run, but his scoring is just way too important. Michael Porter Jr. shows you in that first round, he's not quite there yet for this playoff thing to get you 20 every night to where Yo can maybe take a night off. And I just feel like without Jamal, obviously, the guards, you can really not trust them as far as you can throw them, but you're getting great production from them. And so to me, I wouldn't change much. And the Nuggets, like I said, you win your first 6-game series as a team, basically. Like with this Nuggets team, they've never won a series not going to 7. I feel like they feel good. They feel like they've taken a step in the right direction, and I expect them to roll with it.
This is just my gut on this. I think first game they're going to try to crowd the paint, so Jokic is going to shoot on the perimeter a lot of threes, and then I think there'll be adjustment, and then he'll go more inside later in the series. That's just my gut feel on that.
They'll be able to do that as long as MPJ isn't torching them. But if MPJ can get going from deep, they're not going to be able to do that. And to me, like I said, like we all know, the Suns are not that big. They're not a big team. So Yoke should be able to get what he wants.
Avoid having him get easy buckets in the paint, but that's what makes him so special. He can he can play wherever.
You saw what happened when they put Covington on him. For some big guys, putting a littler guy on them can disrupt their rhythm. Yoke looked like he was going to score 100 if they left Covington on him. So if they put Jay Crowder on Jokic, it's going to be trouble.
So do you guys think that it'll get to a point where they can force a lineup change from Phoenix and they go big with Kaminsky or Saric?
I just don't see in the playoffs you go with your best players. I just don't see how Kaminsky can help them. Like to me,
they might end up trying it though.
You think? Maybe Dario. I think they might put some Dario on him. I cannot see. You know what?
Depends
I won't rule it out. You're right. I won't rule it out. You're right. They don't have options.
How desperate they are, or if these are close games.
And Jalen Smith was kind of getting like inconsistent minutes at the end of the year. It was weird. Like he would show up every now and then. I don't know if maybe they need his size. Who fucking knows? But to be honest, I don't think any of us. Kaminsky's on our team, and we're asking if we need Kaminsky out there. I think all of us are saying, please, no, we don't want Frank Kaminsky out there.
Yeah, I think if Monty Williams does go to a guy like that, the issue you'll run into is it'll be easier for Michael Porter Jr. to hide defensively if he gets to guard Frank or Dario as opposed to Jay or Mikal Bridges.
Yes, please. Mm-hmm. Because Mike gets lackluster. He will leave a corner shooter. He just, trying to pursue something else. I'm very much thinking that if the Suns do not shoot the ball well, man, I think we could dominate this series. I don't see much of a difference when Dame is playing like that. Because you got to remember, guys, the Portland Trailblazers were kind of shaky at the halfway mark of the season because they weren't getting that same production from Dame. CJ was kind of injured, or I think he dealt with COVID too. Either way, they were rolling. Like that Blazers team, when they get 2 wins from us, they're feeling as good as they've felt at any point this season or last season. And I just feel like they had as much, if not more, experience than the Suns do. So I just felt like the Blazers were going to give us a tougher run than the Suns do, but they're the second seed for a reason, and I'm not trying to sleep on them. I just feel like it's a bad matchup for them against us.
And we know the X factor of the series will be Monte Morris. He showed it in games 5 and 6 that any guard that's semi-competent can really be a pretty big threat in the 2-man game with Jokic.
Yeah.
But if you can shoot. Monte's a great shooter. He's a great shooter.
I just love his into quarter shots. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's going in, baby.
You guys remember when Jamal used to struggle with bringing the clock down? It's funny
Yeah.
because Monte is like the exact opposite. And what I will say is Monte, I'm scared because those 2 games were unreal. Like, yeah, I'm not sure he's played
Yeah.
better in his career.
You think Nuggets? You see JaVale McGee at all? I know that's completely.
They just
off.
don't have the. I just think we would have used JaVale for teams like the Lakers or a team like the Sixers, where you got a backup like Dwight, who you need some size on. But I don't see it for the unless DeAndre is absolutely destroying Yoke, which I don't anticipate. Some might, I don't.
Maybe on bench minutes if Aiden's out there and Jokic isn't.
I just think that JaMychal and Paul are playing too good right now, and it's working. Like the bench unit's working, and they're flowing. And when you have to bring back guys like Will and PJ, I don't see them focusing on like worrying about our big situation right now. But you never know, bro. We brought him here for a reason. We're gonna use him at a certain time. I just don't know when.
Oh, he's like he's a good team player. I love it. Like
he's the number one cheerleader. Number one. He is literally always first to rush the guys when they call a timeout, and I appreciate it so much.
Even if we don't end up using him, I still like that trade.
Absolutely, 100%, 100%.
So I know that was off topic. We were talking about Monte Morris.
No, but you're good. I agree. Like, you know, I definitely agree that JaVale will have a time and place.
Mm-hmm.
Although you brought up a good thing that was the most surprising part about that previous series, the Blazers, is the fact that Terry Stotts actually decided to match down from Enes Kanter, and we thought that it would eventually come down to Malone having to pull either one of JaMychal Green or Paul Millsap.
Exactly. We dominated the offensive glass, bro. And like I'm telling you, if Kanter's not rebounding, it just doesn't really make sense why he's in there. And he's so bad defensively that like you have to be getting offense from him, and he just never was that intricate in their offense. But you're right. Like bro, when the Blazers, to me, when they got the 55 and they lost, to me was just like they didn't have to throw the white flag. I just saw them like their reactions. They couldn't come back from that. They gave that game like everything they had, and it sucks. You got to look at Dame like, bro, I'm sorry, that's all I had, and we lost. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry, like that's how good the Nuggets are.
That felt like karma for like that game 3. Because that game 3 like gave me a heart attack.
That and are you talking about the 4 overtime game?
Yes,
yeah, exactly.
I think that was game 3, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I couldn't tell if you were talking about this year's game 3 or not.
No,
but
no,
exactly.
No, sorry.
No, exactly. Though.
This year's game 3 was not that way at all.
Did we dominate game 3?
We blew them out.
Yeah, exactly. I figured we lost game 4, right?
Yeah,
it was 2-2. Yeah, it was 2-2. Well, and that at that point, to me, I'm like the Blazers. This is a scary Blazers team. Like they were clicking. That was after Norman Powell dropped 30. So I'm like, okay, if he gets rolling, if CJ can get rolling, they're scary. To me, they have more firepower than the Suns. And if we're worried
trade
about,
was still weird, the Gary Trent Jr. trade.
Yeah, but that's because they were trying to, to me, they were trying to get a guy for guys like Michael Porter Jr., which you saw he was kind of like face guarding this dude like half of the series. But Norman, to me, Norman's a guy. The Nuggets, if we don't make it all the way this year, Norman Powell is an interesting guy that I think we need to look at 100%.
I think Norman may be a guy who it just gets a bit above the mid-level, and it's going to present a bit of a challenge anytime that there's good free agents that the Nuggets could add that could just be slightly above that full mid-level.
But for the price though, and you don't like him defensively?
Yes, he is solid defensively. I just think that maybe having a secondary, a big who can also score off the bench could be a better way to go.
Oh, you think that's the direction the Nuggets going? Okay, because to me,
like I've been saying for a while with Kelly Olynyk, especially with what he showed in Houston.
I really like that. Yeah. He's been
And
fantastic. He was fantastic in Houston for those last
and
4
this
years.
is the
I
one
think Rivers
situation
comes
where he
back.
could make that translate in.
No, exactly. Yeah, Rivers will come back, Kevin. There's no way he played too good to not bring him back for at least a little 2-year vet minimum.
Yep.
That sounds right.
Unless another team is like, okay, Austin still got it. Let's give him a
They'll
little
need
6
someone
yeah.
else though. They'll need another guard if not. 'cause
That's why I say because
Murray
you
isn't
cannot
going to be
keep
back anytime soon.
You can't trust Murray's. You don't want to rush Murray in general. We cannot keep trusting Will Barton. I love him to death.
Yeah.
He's been injured 3 years in a row, bro. When we've needed him, you've got to consider it. And PJ Dozier getting hurt this year doesn't
I
make
think it
me
ends up being
enthusiastic.
Rivers, but if Rivers
If you
goes,
come
you
up
need someone
short,
else.
if you come up short and
Yeah.
it's Rivers, to me that's disappointing. But if
Yeah.
you go to the finals and it's Rivers, then I don't mind that at all. To me,
Yeah.
Jamal will be back as soon as possible. He's not a guy that's going to drag it out, regardless of how we want him to approach this. I think we'll get Jamal at some point next season. So
That's definitely how he is for sure.
yeah, I'm telling you. So I don't think you need. You're right. You don't
Shit,
necessarily need a guy.
He wants to play right now.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need a guy like Norman Powell necessarily. But to me, if you can get a guy like that for like the right price, I don't see how you don't.
And you brought up a good point about Will Barton. I think if the Nuggets have to go over the mid-level to get a guy, especially in a sign and trade, I think probably the first two guys you have to consider including in a deal would be Will Barton and JaMychal Green, and the lean towards Will Barton due to the injuries and him likely opting into that last year of his deal.
JaMychal because of Zeke or JaMychal because of Paul?
More due to the salary rather than anything else.
Oh, well, if it came down to it, who would you rather keep, JaMychal or Paul?
Definitely JaMychal, knowing that I think Paul may be in his last year right now.
That's what
anyway.
I'm wondering. If Paul's retiring, then I think we have to bring JaMychal back. Like, I think it's not even a question. You have to.
JaMychal's like...
But if Zeke's ready...
It's just so frustrating to me.
It does, and honestly, he's limited when he's not hitting his 3-point shot. But those 7 rebounds were so freaking ginormous in that game 6. Like, he's got the grit that you can't really calculate in stats. And to me, like, if Paul is retiring, you just cannot. You can't. But if Zeke's ready, that's a question I think is worth asking because he's a really interesting young player and you didn't ship him as opposed to RJ. I think you would hope he's somewhat ready for a role next year. So that's where that could come from, Andrew. Which
I'm curious what they wanted to, if they would have rather had it. So Zeke, that would be my guess over
exactly.
RJ.
I asked
Especially
a friend that,
considering they traded up to get RJ. I don't think they wanted to trade him, but it was just how you got the trade to happen.
No, 100%. I asked a friend who was a Magic fan, and he said there was no way Orlando was taking that trade if it was Zeke. It was almost the name of RJ. It's almost like when the Magic got Markelle. They're almost like banking. Yeah. They need star power. Like you need guys that get asses in seats. Like when you're a team like the Magic.
I mean, I like RJ, but that roster's like they need if they hit big in the lottery, maybe things can change.
Oh, they're interesting for sure. Cole and him with Markelle, Jonathan Isaac, they're interesting. Not to get off subject, but yeah. They're interesting.
Yeah, let's get into that last point that concerns me in this series, and that's can Mikal Bridges do a better job of taking Michael Porter Jr. out of the game than Norman Powell did in the last series? That's probably the biggest concern that the Nuggets should have right now.
That's 100% the first thing that I know the Nuggets are addressing. I know Malone is telling MPJ, and I don't really feel like he has to because Michael's rep around the league is already like this dude is the real deal on that end. But if Mike is as special as we know he is, I'm sorry, there's nobody you can put in front of him.
Well, I also think Morris playing more because I think he's just opens the court a lot more than Facu does.
Exactly, because he's a great shooter. Exactly.
That helps MPJ a lot.
Absolutely.
they can't cheat off like in Morris like they can Facu.
Oh, Kevin, that's actually a fantastic point because you're right.
And I know Facu's played well, but I still trust Morris a lot more shooting than Facu.
Oh, absolutely. No, and really, Facu actually was really good in the first 6 games of this year, or first 5 games of this 4, whatever it was. But you're so right. The second Monte got out there, Mike goes 25 and 26. And
I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, no, because I'm telling you, because Facu's closing those first 4 games, and Mike can
something like
barely get a shot off.
MPJ isn't there quite yet, and I think he will. Is like some of the ball control, some of the dribble penetration, but I don't know if you can learn that during the playoffs. I feel like that's an off-season thing coming into next year. Which he's a hard worker. I think he will get there, but I don't think you see that quite yet this series.
He's already so respected around the league because I know you guys. I already said it, but you guys really notice Norman face guard, like literally in a corner, just like ignoring the play behind him, just to make sure Mike is not going anywhere. And to me, it just speaks.
He's already so special, but I think he has so much more to even give.
I will say though, the next time that motherfucker gets 26 points in the first quarter or first half, and he don't get us a point in the second half, I'm gonna lose it.
No, that was Jokic time shit.
Bro, I mean, and I appreciate it because, to be honest, if you have to rely on MPJ shots down the stretch of that game, we probably don't win as dominant as we did. So I don't.
He's not quite there, but you can see the talent,
dude. Some of those shots are like. The one, it was the 4th 3 I think he had. He was like coming off. He was going towards the center. He like herky jerked it, bro. He like did a little double clutch, bro. And it was nothing but net. And I'm just like, bro, if this guy, it's confidence to me too. Like if he really believes that he's the best player on the court, even better than Yoke, then there's nothing that can stop that kid.
No, I think coming into next year, he's even going to be better because he'll be able to learn, focus on things he was struggling with in this playoffs, like he did last year,
which is dribbling and and I think maybe passing is second. But to me, bro, his passing is such an underrated part of his game. It just so happens he really doesn't have to pass that much. But dude, if a guy is cutting, he hits that guy on the money, bro. But most times it just so happens that he can break that guy down in front of him himself. So he doesn't really need to hit a cutter.
People are used to Jokic passing, which is all-time amazing. So you compare that to it.
No, absolutely. Of course.
A little biased.
But also though, when Yoke is in the paint, guys are cutting. If Mike's in an ISO situation, guys aren't as cutting as much. They expect him to go up with that. So that's the one difference. But it just, some of these passes he makes, I'm like, bro, you shouldn't be able to make that pass, but you're incredible. So yeah.
Not to go off on MPJ, but it's so exciting to watch.
He's so good, man.
Tim Connolly, thank you so much.
Thank you, my brother. We need a freaking shrine of Tim outside of Pepsi Center, bro. It's time. I don't care.
Even on one of his not as great draft years, he still got Monte Morris.
Bro. He missed bad 1 year, and that's it.
And that's the year he still got Monte Morris.
Is that the year?
Yeah, that was
I'm talking about the year. That's the Mitchell year?
Yeah.
Oh, that is the Mitchell year. You're right. But Tyler Lydon and Malik Beasley in that first round. Or, no. Malik is with Wancho. Excuse me. No, that's the year after or before?
It's because they thought they were going to get OJ Anunoby, and
I'm actually glad we didn't.
Before them.
Yeah, we don't need OG, so.
No.
Yeah.
You don't get Michael if you have OJ.
Actually, I feel like Andrew might like OG, though, for a pickup if he ever becomes available.
Yeah, it'd be worth consideration, but the thing about Tim Connolly is, imagine if he ended up somewhere like the Golden State Warriors or the LA Lakers. Think about the dynasty he could have just by continuing to hit on all the margin picks year in and year out.
No, we are so blessed to have this guy. I mean, to be honest, when you think about that, how many good presidents there are, like operating at each time,
Mhm.
like there's probably like 5 good ones right now. We have one of them, and that's just, bro, it speaks for itself.
But yeah,
True.
the Warriors probably wouldn't have stopped winning championships if you were
Oh,
around.
yeah, the potential is endless. No, like, because we're such like, bro, people call us a mid level. We are,
Yeah.
bro, we are a low level market. Get out of here. We
Yeah.
might be lucky we get a free agent once every 10 years. So
No,
if he goes to even a place like Sacramento that can pull a guy because it's California, he might be able to pull a team like the
he's
Kings or the
drafting like the
Cavs.
Spurs. He's pulling
Yeah,
some
no,
Spurs shit off.
yeah,
Yep.
he really doesn't miss.
I think as long as Tim Connolly maintains the flexibility of the team, there's going to be a point where some star players like I know you don't got cap space, but I'd like to come here. Can you make it happen for me?
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, we don't have 3 better players in that, like Jamal, Yoke, and Mike are all selfless guys, or I mean, have shown to be selfless guys so
Mhm.
far, who would possibly sacrifice some money for another guy to come in. So, to me, it's a perfect situation here. And just off that, did he not decline somewhere else, like an interview somewhere else?
Yeah.
Am I tripping?
Washington.
No,
Was it
he
Washington?
interviewed
Yeah,
with Washington.
exactly, Washington. Oh, he interviewed with them.
Maybe I thought he interviewed and
If
then he
he did,
stayed
he
here.
And
saw
he
the
pulled his
dumpster.
consideration.
Yeah, he saw the dumpster fire they were, and yeah.
I
So
mean, yeah, I wouldn't have gone there either with the ownership.
nah, but it
It's a
seems like
disaster.
he really likes to be in Denver, which is after Masai did us, you gotta appreciate it.
Yeah.
Let's get into the official series predictions for this. Who you got? And let's start with Kevin.
All right. I don't know. Maybe I'm riding high, but I'm feeling Nuggets in 6.
Yeah,
This is a tough series to go. I mean, this is really a pick 'em, but I continue to think they're getting doubted. People do not realize how fucking great Jokic is.
no, not
They
still,
do not.
and
I
it's
don't even care if they
embarrassing.
win or lose this. Jokic is going to play great. That's a guarantee.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. Um, Andrew, I'll start at the top. I want to go over all 4 of them really quick. I got the Nets in 6. I got the Hawks in 7. I have Utah in 6, and I got the Nuggets in 6.
Yeah, I feel like I agree with this. Nuggets in
Mm.
6 because I think the Portland series prepared him well for
Exactly.
playing against the Suns, are pretty similar teams.
Mm-hmm.
Then the fact that I think Phoenix doesn't play to its strengths as well as it could, and I think they're gonna find themselves losing a couple games in like slugfest type affairs,
Mm-hmm.
and those games usually favor the Nuggets, regardless of how frustrating it is in certain moments.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm pretty certain we're gonna get Will or PJ back at some point,
If
so that's
not
gonna
both.
help them even more. So
Yeah.
I've got Nuggets in 6,
Give me the
and
rest.
if
Give me the rest. Give me your other 3. Kevin, I want them
oh
from you
yeah,
too. I
I'll
want to.
say it too. You can
Yeah.
finish though.
Yep.
oh I still now I've kind of changed on the Nets. I feel like they could finish off Milwaukee in book 5. I
And
originally had
5.
that in
Yeah, I'm
6,
kind of thinking that too. But, yeah.
and with the and I think Philadelphia gets it in 7 against Atlanta.
Yeah.
Then Utah in 7 against the Clippers.
Okay.
All right.
Kevin.
So I did say Clippers. I'm saying Clippers in 6. I guess I'll be the only one. If they embarrass me, I'm fine with it. I don't respect the Clippers. I don't like them, so please embarrass me.
That's okay, brother. You got to
But
be brave to pick guys like
I'm
teams
I'm
like that.
I'm picking the Clippers. Whatever. See if I'm wrong. All right, Clippers in 6. I still think Milwaukee puts up a fight, but I definitely feel comfortable Brooklyn's winning that. Brooklyn in 6. Um, I don't know. I got a feeling like Embiid's gonna get hurt or something because he always gets hurt every playoffs, and that's awful. But that's just my horrible gut feeling. Atlanta in 7.
I mean, bro, he's playing on a partially torn meniscus. It's not exactly a recipe that they. I mean, dude,
Yeah.
to me, the fact that they're playing him, it either means that like that it's really not even a tear. It might be like the most minimal of tear, but it's still a tear. So,
Yeah, could get
but
worse.
that's what I'm saying. And
Yeah.
bro, it's him. It's Embiid. This man has been hurt every year, so I wouldn't be playing with that. It was like when the Lakers threw AD out there; it just worked. So
Yeah.
But
I just got
here,
bad feelings about that. I think that they're good
fair
enough
enough.
that they don't like, even without Embiid, like that they don't go without a fight. But I still
Yeah.
think Atlanta wins that one.
I like that we all have that series going 7 because to me, it's
If I
really
didn't
not.
see today's game, I might have felt different. That's not
Yeah,
exactly fair.
exactly. No. No, same. If Philly came out and won today, I'd probably be saying Philly in 7.
Yeah.
But to me, that game 1 is really important for young teams, especially. But it wouldn't surprise me if Philly won in 7. I want to hope that the Hawks are rolling right now.
That's gonna be. I think that's gonna be the most entertaining series to watch.
Okay, and I want to ask y'all really quick. So, Andrew, you have Nets and Philly. Who's winning that series?
We could go into that, but I think we also have a chance to save that for the next second round review and conference finals preview.
Fair enough, my man. Fair enough.
It could be in about another week and a half or so.
And you still got to see. That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm with it. All right, but can I ask y'all then, as a one last question,
Sure.
if you just had to pick right now one team to win it all, I don't even care about who they're playing. Just who's winning it right now, if you had to say.
Oh, that's a Brooklyn. I know that's a boring
yeah.
pick.
No, that's fair. Off of these first
Sorry, it's
round
the
matchups,
like,
yeah. They
also,
look like the favorite.
I am a believer of Kevin Durant in the playoffs. He's just proven it.
He's unstoppable.
And he has enough talent around him in that team to win it.
Especially if James can get back.
He's such an amazing playoff performer.
He is. I mean, it's hard to say when you play with the caliber of player and the teams he's been on these last 5
years. He did it
years.
with Oklahoma too.
But I know, but they lost in the final. I get it. I'm just saying, like,
sure.
I would like to see him capitalize with one other guy as opposed to 2. But you know what? He's still an amazing player. I'm not taking nothing away from him.
Play with who you play with.
Yeah. I mean, but but to me, if James is playing, they're unstoppable. So, Andrew, what about you?
The Nets are in that perfect storm this year where I think they're going to get to avoid the Clippers. The Lakers were hurt. The Nuggets are going to be one man short of really being able to do it. So, and the Bucks, they just don't have enough around the margins. And I thought they'd prove to be their best test. And if the Hawks manage to get by, that may even be a tougher matchup potentially for them than the Sixers. So I think the Nets have lucked into all the injuries happening on the West side, and the East still being pretty weak, and they could still easily win that, even if Harden isn't much of a factor from here on out.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
I said this on the last one. I want next year. I want an ABA Finals rematch, Nuggets Nets.
Yeah,
I want it.
I have a feeling we'll get it. We're gonna get it one time at least. But last thing I want to say, bro, I'm really disappointed in the Milwaukee Bucks. The second they come out and I see Giannis shooting threes, it just really disappoints me because they were, to me, like y'all said, the biggest threat to them. And just Giannis, he's got to learn how to make his money and maybe one day he becomes this great shooter that he thinks he can
Yeah.
be, but I just
I
don't
don't know.
like
I
it.
think he's the Shaq of this generation, and if you know that Shaq history, it means he needs
He's
to like have
Kobe.
he needs like a Kobe, he needs something like that, or a Dwayne
Yeah.
Wade at one point.
So I
Where that
saw.
doesn't mean he's not great, but that doesn't mean you
No,
can build a complete team around him.
great players and winners aren't always the same thing, but
True.
to me, I've been seeing a
It's just
lot of
type
that.
of dominance. I don't know if he can be the center.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I just don't. I mean, in this generation, it feels like you have to be a great shooter to lead a
Yeah.
team, and it just, to me, if I see Dame and Giannis on the same team, that could be really interesting. I've seen some talks
Ooh, that
about that
would
already. Yeah,
be a really good team.
yeah. If they can
Yeah,
keep,
what's clear is Giannis needs that alpha perimeter scorer, and
yeah,
as long as he doesn't have it,
yeah,
it's just really going to come down to
No,
the
just make
Bucks
a
landing in the right
Nuggets super
matchups and
team.
avoiding the bad ones.
yeah. Giannis, come to Denver.
I mean, like Giannis in the dunkers role with Jokic. Oh, that would be basketball porn.
Yeah, man. I mean, we can dream.
I don't
That
think
would be
that's
the
possible,
example
but
right there of the guy who wants to come to Denver even though they don't have cap space.
yeah,
That
would
would
be
be.
like maybe some of the most exciting basketball ever.
It would, but I would be so torn if we
Yeah,
likely had to give up MPJ. That would be just
it would
such a
hurt
weird. It would be so weird,
for
but
him. Even for MPJ, it might be worth it for Giannis.
I know Andrew
But
would take it in
I
a
know
heartbeat.
MPJ is really good too. I don't know. That's a
But I mean, it's a good problem to have, right?
Yep.
If
that
it ever came to that.
I don't know what I would choose.
Yes, sir.
I think that's a good stopping point for
Yes, sir.
tonight. So,
Yeah.
Kevin, I know that you're a private account, but do you got anything to plug real quick?
Nothing right now.
And how about you, Sonny Cay?
Yeah, he follow me on Twitter, Sonny K two underscores, and then Big Obama's underscore DFS, and follow me on YouTube, Sonny K SONNCAY, as you see my name up there. I'm also on all streaming platforms: Apple Music, Spotify, Tidal, Amazon Music, Google Music, Napster for my old heads, any of that. So please check my music out if you get a chance.
Sounds good. Thank and remember to go subscribe to the Rochford Files on YouTube. Follow the Rochford Files on Twitch and the Rochford Files Facebook page. And remember that tomorrow it'll be live at 4 p.m. Eastern instead, an hour later. And the guest will be Sabby Sabs of the Fred Hampton Left. So I look forward to that and hope to see y'all back here tomorrow night, tomorrow afternoon on the Rochford Files. And this is Andrew Rochford signing out.